Hey guys, I had to get on just to keep my YouTube channel alive. It's been like 2 weeks. No, but I did feel called to come on and talk to everybody too. But I've just been busy packing and moving, and that's kind of like a little bit of what I want to talk about, is like just little things that have come up for me lately and how I've gotten through them and how I've worked through everything. Like, just for instance, yesterday I kind of noticed one of the tires in my truck, the air was like seeping out a little. I noticed last week, so I put some air in it. And then I was like, I'm gonna check it again when I go to the store today. I mean, I kind of like glance here and there, but I'm not paying that much attention, right? So I get to the air place that's in front of the grocery store, and I go to get it, and I mean, the tire is damn near flat. I was like, thank you so much, Spirit, because I wouldn't even have drove here on that if I would have known. It wasn't flat, but it was just like really low. And that, like, just being able to get air in my tires so then I can make it to my appointment tomorrow to get new tires on my truck, you know, I wouldn't have even been able to do that and I would have been stressed about it the whole time. So I was just like, as soon as I got there, I gave gratitude that I got there without the knowingness that my tire was that bad and that I was safe, obviously. Then so I filled it up and I got groceries and I came home, and it'll be fine to drive to my appointment. So I'm like grateful for that. But then it's like all this lack energy starts coming in, because it's like I get to the gas station, I drive a Suburban. It was like $170 to fill it because I have like a reserve tank too. I was like, oh shit. Like, and then every time we go out to camp, it's like 5 hours to come there and go there and come back. So that's like how much it costs in gas just to go there. And I'm like thinking and calculating, and I'm like $1,000 to get my tires put on, like all these like old things that I've already worked through. Like, it doesn't matter if you have the money in your bank account, you're abundant and you are provided for in that moment for whatever you need. And I had that, you know what I mean? So there's no reason. So I start going and inward and connecting to Spirit. Like, there's no reason to start changing around what you would normally want to do, which is take your family somewhere where they enjoy, you know, being together, and it's like a little community there and everybody's in their peace. So I'm not going to sit there and stress out about and ruin camp for myself, like driving out there all over gas prices and the fact that I was going to get my tires changed anyways before winter. So now it's just going to be done with, right? And tires are made of oil. So if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, the prices of those are also going to go up along with everything else. So just get it done now, right? So like, keep that mindset. Just start thinking, taking this perspective and flipping it on its ass. Like, fuck being worried about money. I'm going to still live my life the same way I want to live it. I'm going to still go have fun with my family, and I'm not going to let these worrying thoughts creep in and ruin being present and in the moment. And so for me, I'm an overthinker, so the best way for me to get through situations like that is to talk myself. Like, I shouldn't have to convince myself I'm abundant, but like when you're working through, like for me, I came from poverty when I was a kid, so I really had to work through a lot of lack, and I'm like being in survival mode my whole life and trying to come out of survival mode. And that's just like a quick example, but you know, we live in the matrix and we all have to work and get money to survive, even though that's bullshit, because our fucking birthright is to be abundant, right? And it's just these little things, and it takes practice, and it's not just gonna go away. Things are gonna come up and you're gonna be tested. Spirit's like, do you really have faith? Is your faith really on the level that you think it's on, you know? And so we are tested. And that contrast, when you can get through it, when you can really rise above it and not let it shake you or bring you out of alignment, that's when you know you're really healing and working through it. Because yeah, it's going to be there. Contrast is going to be in the human experience. It's how are you going to navigate it? What space are you going to come from? Are you going to come from a vibrational space of love and knowing that you're always taken care of? Or are you going to come from a vibrational space of lack and worry and what if I don't survive this? But guess what? We've like, if you're sitting here listening to this video right now, you survived every single thing you went through, right? And we've been through some crazy shit as light workers, as people on this journey that are here to help wake others up. So we've been through some shit, right? So we have to remember that and be easy on ourselves, but in the same point, take accountability and really be like, no, this is my thought. These are my feelings coming forward. Maybe it was from some trauma or something that happened to me that wasn't in my control, but it is my control on how I'm going to perceive it. It is my control on how I'm going to work through it, how I'm going to navigate the situation at hand. And then we have to say, okay, how do I come from a space of love? How do I come from a space of self-respect? How do I come from a space of like setting boundaries and just what is the highest good for me spirit, and whatever that is, let me align with it. And if contrast comes up, know that is for the highest good, for you to recognize something, for you to be more conscious of something, be more aware, notice more, perceive more. The more angles you can perceive it from, the more opportunities and timelines that you have and options that you have to decide from, whether they're good or bad. You're being just being able to perceive. That's why it's so important to be a good listener with others, because they're giving you a perspective that you wouldn't have otherwise. They've lived their life every single moment, and you have no idea what that feels like unless you were literally that spirit in that avatar. So they can give you a different perspective. Whether you resonate with it or not, that's not what matters. What matters is that the information is there and you're an observer and you're taking in all this information because you're not so distracted by the outside world, and you're able to come from a place of discernment, and when you're aligned with your higher self and really feeling like, okay, and in whatever moments where you feel like you're confused or not sure what the decision is going to be, you can be like, okay, how can I come from a space of love? Like, you're coming from that space and you know it because you're asking yourself. You're consciously asking yourself, and you're coming from this intention of that. Most people are just walking around making decisions unconsciously, like maybe even sleeping with a lot of different people. Like, that's an unconscious decision. You're not really fully consciously taking in every perspective, because if you did, you probably wouldn't do it. You would protect your energy a little bit more, and you wouldn't just allow anybody's trauma to seep into your field because you just want to get a quick pleasure out of it. You know what I mean? Like, if you're really taking in all the perceptions, you would navigate differently, and we do navigate differently. When you know better, you do better. So what that really means is taking in all the information, not being attached to one perspective or one way of doing things or one way of being. That way, you know you're making a decision from what is of the highest good of you, because you've gathered all the information. You're able to make a well-rounded, discerning choice for yourself that's from a divine place. That's why when you're locked into belief systems, or you're locked into ways of beings, or you're locked into these patterns of thinking or victimhood mentality or whatever it is for you, when you're so locked into that, you cut yourself off, because you're not really able to make a decision from a place of okay, I see this person's perception. Okay, I see this perception over here. I see how the Matrix is doing it over here. People in the Matrix, people and then from that space, that's why when we come into ourselves on this spiritual journey, we come from we explore so many different areas. And sometimes in that, we become attached to belief systems instead of taking what resonates, leaving what doesn't. Because if you notice, there's a gift in almost anything. You could watch something about darkness, but now you know how to better protect yourself because you're aware of what that darkness is. So awareness and taking in the information, but not absorbing it, taking it in as the observer, and then using your discernment and how you want to bring certain energies into your life, or put up boundaries that you don't want certain energies in your life. And that comes with job or whatever it is. Even when you're meditating and something comes into your space, what kind of discernment do you have? What kind of knowledge base do you have about that? How much have you really learned about protecting yourself? How many perspectives have you taken in order to be able to discern what's for you? And you can just go into meditation and figure out what's for you. But when we're in this physical world and we're trying to navigate and work through ancestral trauma, past life trauma, trauma you picked up, right, you know, just from sleeping around or like interacting with other people in your environment. Like, you picked up so much shit, and it's time to detox. It's time to get rid of that so we can bring in the good stuff. But if you're so attached to those things, those energies that you've consumed, whether it's food, people in your life, jobs, anything that is distracting you from your organic nature and your drive to create, your drive to be a part of nature, and seeing how it's all connected and we are all connected, and how we can use our specific gifts as and use those tools in order to help the all. And in the beginning, the most important person to help is you. The most important soul to really look at and examine and focus on is you, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. So once you really learn discernment and are bringing in and surrounding yourself in a more sacred environment, and in protecting your energy field, and really just being conscious of how you interact with yourself, others, your environment, and on a moment-to-moment basis, and asking yourself, is this divine? Is this divine? Is this what I'm putting into my body? The food I'm consuming, all that. And I have to check myself all the time. I'm not sitting here trying to be up on some, above anybody, because like, I get my candy, I do what I do, and I'm working through my shit just as much as anyone else. I'm not sitting here sitting on my throne to judge anyone. I'm just letting you know we're all going through this together. We're all imperfectly perfect, and just figuring out and navigating this journey. And it's our decision if we want to ascend right now, or if we're going to go back and repeat that, 20,000 some year cycle. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not interested in going back and forgetting and starting all over. We've come this far. So we have to take that accountability. We have to have that discernment. We have to ask, are we coming from a divine place in any given moment when we're making decisions? Not even like, we don't even have to even our thoughts. You can sit and do nothing and not interact with your environment and say you're protecting yourself. You're doing anything, but your thoughts, you can go into meditation and get infiltrated. Like, you really have to ask yourself what space you're coming from. Even sitting at home thinking you're doing self-care, watching Netflix, but you're watching something that's so low vibrational, so you're not protecting yourself at all. And the more conscious you become, the more aware you become, and the more you notice everything, the more you're able to be okay. Even yesterday, me getting into a little bit of a worry about, finances and stuff like that, when I know I'm taken care of. I'm always taken care of. Even my lowest of lows, somehow I figured that shit out, and it was because Spirit always had me. And that was before I even believed. And so now it's even more, because the more you believe, the more you receive. So I'm in that space of knowing. I ain't even believing. I know my connection, right? And just like all of us, we have that connection. And when you know it, it's just becomes more apparent, and you become more and more aware, because the universe is speaking to us all the time through signs and synchronicity, but we're so distracted by the drama in our own life or whatever it may be that we can't even see it. Trust me, you want to see it, because then life feels like a miracle, like you are a walking miracle. I made a video about that before, but it's the truth. You just have to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, right? We just have to have our senses open, our heart open. And that was a big thing. And that was one thing I wanted to touch on, I had thought about, was that a lot of what me and Lance went through was the separation was so needed. I'm so grateful for that. I'm not embarrassed. I mean, at first I was like, oh, you share all your information to all your personal information to everybody on YouTube. Kels, that shit can get draining, because if you break up and you get back together and that shit, I've been through it before, so I'm past feeling embarrassed about stuff like that. It goes through your head, but I let that shit go quick. But the point of the matter is that contrast was so needed. It was Lance needed to see I was gonna set a heavy boundary, and he had to be serious about his growth. And if he didn't show me that, it took him months for him to like prove it to me and for me to open my heart back up. And like my heart, he's the only person probably in this entire fucking world that I've really, really opened my heart to. And so for me, it was like what we went through felt like betrayal for me. And then he really needed to like go through this thing, like, you have to check and correct yourself, because like you can't just expect, you know, people to be there for you. You have to be, you know, and I had to check and correct myself at the same time, because I wasn't making it easy for him to show up for me, right? And this is what conscious relationships are about. It's like really, like when you get into ego, you're very stubborn in like what you think is the right choice. And the way that you know is there's this sense of confusion through the whole thing. I never felt so confused than I did this spring. Like I felt so confused about every decision I was making, but I was like stubborn. Like, and if I really sat for a second, was like, okay, what place are you coming from right now, Kelsey? Is this divine? Are you being a stubborn little turd? Because it's like in me. I'm like a 1-8 combo numerology. I can't even say that shit all the way through, but you feel me. Those are my numbers, and it's like the most stubborn numbers. Like they're the leadership numbers. They're like, I know the best way. I've got all of these fucking ideas. Like sometimes it's hard to allow in a relationship, if you're a woman in that energy, because those are very masculine, bringing in feminine energy and like allowing somebody to come in and take the lead is very challenging. And I've always been in survival mode and doing it like solo dolo. I got this. I don't have to ask anyone for shit, you know? Like, it's like not how we're meant to be. In like over 30 years of my life living in survival mode and living in that way, and like coming in, even my personality and all that in that masculine, you know how challenging it is for me to bring in the feminine energy. And when I started doing it was when I met Lance and started making my YouTube channel. I was like balanced enough in my energy to connect to spirit finally. And that's not because of him, because I met him because I did the work to come into that space, and then we had to do the work together to continue to elevate and rise. And I could have done that with anyone. It's not just like this whole twin flame thing, but it does catapult you very quickly, because this last 4 years, the amount of spiritual work I've done is absolutely insane. And that's because that push back and forth, and that it's like that love. It's like, you'll do anything. I'll do the fucking work. This love feels so good. This love is so like real. Like I'll do anything to, you know, and it's not just for the love. The love, you start to realize you're generating yourself. It's not really the partner. They are just the ones that gave you that first taste. So when you look at them, you recognize your first real taste of that, you know. Anyone on the twin flame journey knows what I'm talking about. Like there's this like, it's like you activate each other. That's the word I'm looking for. You activate each other. So anyways, does that mean that if the other person with their own free will is choosing not to grow, does that mean you self-sacrifice? No, don't do that. If you need to create the space, create the space. The space will be created when two people are not choosing to come from that open heart space. Because when one person's closed off, it'll push the other person away, and the other person's closed off, push the other person away. You already know it's very much like that in conscious relationships. Once you're on your spiritual journey, your relationships are going to be the number one thing to help you grow. So you know, the people who struggle a lot are the people who, and that's it, and part of it is because of the matrix. But a lot of times, you know, instead of like really coming from a space of unconditional love, if you see like the potential and somebody is trying to grow, but you're so used to that, like, I can just throw this person away and go find somebody else, there's plenty of fish in the sea. It's like, is that person really showing you, like, what are they showing you, and how do you feel about them? And is there are you equally yoked? Are you both reciprocating? Are you both coming through and meeting halfway, right? And those are like all these questions that you have to ask. And if you both are, it's worth it to work through it. But you'll know if you both are, because you'll both show up and have the conversations, because it's a lot of difficult conversations. It's a lot of shutting your mouth and listening to what the other person is actually saying, what they're actually going through. You know, it's unconditional love. And our world teaches us that to be victims. And when you go into victim mode, there is no meeting in the middle. There is no reciprocity, because it's always the one person. It's like you're blaming somebody else. It's like not coming from an unconditionally loving divine place. Victim mode's so difficult because it's all very situational. So someone could be, you know, in a situation where they're not putting up boundaries and they're being abused, and they are like, I'm a victim, but it's the only reason they're a victim because of their own free will, not to put a boundary up or not to leave, right? Now, when you're in a conscious relationship, now when I say conscious relationship, I'm going to preface that with both people are conscious, right? So there is no abuse or anything like that. Sometimes you will have situations where you're like, oh, like, you're going through it. But then you both come together and you really try to listen and understand and come to this space of unconditional love together. Because at the end of the day, you'll start to realize, like, there really isn't anything you can't get through if you both want it, if you both love each other, you know. If you're both aligned, if you have those things and, you know, everything common, you'll know. I don't have to sit here and tell you how you'll know, because you feel it. But you don't want to, like, if someone doesn't have an open heart, you don't want to sit in a relationship and be abused. You have to set boundaries. Like for me, Lance never abused me or anything like that. But for an example with us is like in the past, not now, obviously, because I don't put up with nothing. But so he would say we got upset with each other, he would just like leave and like not come home for a long time and not answer the phone or anything like that. Now to me, that is abusive. You cannot do that in a relationship, and you can't do that to somebody who literally was abandoned. And that is so, like, of course that's how it happened for me, because it's what I had to work through, right? My mom, literally, we got taken away from her because I was neglected by her as a child. My dad got custody of us. I didn't see her for over a year. Like, all these abandonment issues I have to work through, and that's Lance's way of coping with shit, is running away from it and abandoning the person he loves instead of facing it and having the hard conversation, right? So that's why I had to set that boundary. That's why I said I can't move in. Like, I can't move with you, right? And it was actually 4.5 months we were split up, but it felt like a century. That's probably why I said 6 months in the other video. It felt so long. But the fact of the matter is, it was like something he had to work through. Like, right now, it literally took months for me to open back, because I was like, you literally have to prove to yourself you're gonna change, right? So we're all going through this stuff, but like at the same time, I had to open my heart up to actually receive, because I get very closed off. If I feel like betrayed or something, I'm like, you know what I mean? And so when two people aren't considering each other's feelings and aren't, you know, understanding, because there's a reason why Lance wanted to go run right after we argue, because I don't let him speak a lot of times. Like in the past, when we would have a conversation, it was just like me. You hear how fast I talk, you hear how much comes out. I got stuff to say. I'm reading the situation. I know what I know, you know. But sometimes that was a lesson for me, because as much as my gift of like articulating myself and being able to break things down in a simple way to help others, as much as it is a gift, it can be used to the opposite. And that's with anything, any personality traits you come in with, like your astrologically or numerologically, did I get it that time? Anyways, you see how they can work in two different directions. It could be like, you could use it to help, you know, uplift people, or you know, whatever, for your mission or whatever you do, whatever your gift is, or it could work in the opposite, right? So really think about that. Think about what space you're coming from, and it all circles back to the same theme. Like, what space am I coming from? Is this divine? And that's just like, for me, like, I have to bring in so much feminine energy to balance myself. And it feels good. That's why I have 4 children. That's why I'm a mother. That's why I stay at home with my family and I take care of them. I'm very domestic to balance myself out. I can't just like, if I was out there on the grind, like my family would be forgotten about because I would be so zoned in my masculine space, which is like my a big part of my personality. So it's like easy to get. That's where I was before. That's why I was this crazy overachiever athlete, getting degrees, doing all this shit, hoping that reaching externally was going to validate me. And it was just pushing me into like what the feminist movement is about now, which is like women can do what men can do. But like, why? Like, yeah, we can do whatever we want to do. But at the same time, like, we naturally play these roles for each other. And then guess what? I feel my best when I'm deep in feminine energy, because I'm usually really creative and I'm still doing stuff, but I'm just being creative, or I'm having fun with my family, you know? And so I don't know, I'm just talking about a bunch of random stuff today, guys, because I felt compelled to come on. And I haven't spoke to my YouTube family in a while, and I love you guys, and, you know, reading your comments and everything. And I don't want you to think that I'm like sinking into this hole or anything like that. All is well. I think we're all just like, have we been in a holding pattern for a couple years now? I always say that, but it just still feels that way. Like preparing ourselves. By the way, like I've definitely had days where I'm just physically shot and have to like lay out all day. So if like you're feeling that too, or headaches and stuff like that, don't feel alone. Definitely, it's intense out there. But I don't know. That's what I do now with life. I just laugh. I don't worry. I just laugh. Because really, none of this is that serious. We're all just walking around these crazy little sim avatars, playing in the Matrix, trying to save the multiverse. and apparently Earth is like the most important thing to focus on right now in this huge shift that's happening, that has been literally prophesized about for thousands of years. And I'm kind of happy I came in as who I am now for this time, and I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm only gonna, like, I'll be done moving by July, which I'll be doing more stuff. I'm always doing stuff, but eventually I hope to get a soundproof space so I can do lives and stuff, because I feel like I'm more built for lives, because I can really communicate with you at the same time, and, you know, just like be off the cuff, because that's how I am. I'm very off the cuff, and that's how lives are. So that's the goal. But the challenge for me is the quiet space, because I'm constantly taking care of people. We have like 4 kids, 2 dogs, and Lance, he's very helpful. He just needs reminded a lot. I make lists. But no, everything is just good, but it's a lot. So whenever I get the quietness, I will be making more videos and going live. And I have so many different ideas I can't wait to bring in. And now I can start my garden and everything else. So it does feel like everything's falling into place, but it's like you can't really go full steam ahead yet, because good luck with that. Like, I'll have one day where I'm like so much energy, and then the next day I'm like, all right, I'm like laying on the couch all day, or like doing the bare minimum, you know. And then when I get in those spaces, because I'm such a doer, and in my past it was like, the more you do, the more you're worth, you know. And that was something I had to get through. So like on those days where I'm down, I have to talk myself through it too. Like, there's nothing you have to do today. So what? You're moving. You took a whole month to transition from one house to the next house. Like, you got plenty of time. Take care of yourself. That was like, spirit had to go down that way for a reason, you know. So, but yeah. All right, I'm done mumbling, guys, and I will be back on soon. And I love you so much, and take care of yourself and come from a divine place. Just ask yourself that. That's the easiest way to know, is just like really feel into it. Like, you can feel it. You already know what I'm talking about. So, all right, I love you.